Good morning. In fact, Good Friday morning to you. I don't know about you, but I always feel a bit overwhelmed when Good Friday comes around. And I think a large part of that is because I realize how insufficient my understanding of the cross is, of what Jesus did. But even more important than understanding, I believe, is our response to Jesus willingly suffering and defeating the powers of sin and death, those powers that have held us all in bondage, all of mankind, his forgiveness and his bringing the kingdom of heaven here to earth. One way that the church has traditionally done this on Good Friday is to ponder the last 7 sayings of Jesus from the cross. And I'd like to invite you to do that with me today. I will read each one, and then I'll just offer a small observation, and then invite you to pause the video and spend some time on your own, prayerfully pondering and responding to God, responding to Jesus with each one of these sayings. The first statement that we're going to look at today is taken from our reading in Mark chapter 15. My God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus was quoting here the first line of Psalm 22, a psalm honest in its lament. Jesus identifies with those of us who suffer, grieve, have been ill-treated, mocked, misunderstood, and who mourn. Are there ways you've felt let down by God? Questions you've not been able to put into words? Prayers that have not yet been answered? Turn toward God today with your disappointments, your cries, your questions. He welcomes that. Praying honestly about those things that he already knows are in your heart only reinforces our intimacy with him. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. We have no words to describe the majesty and mercy of Jesus here, forgiving the ones who are crucifying him, among which are you and me. Are there things you need to ask God to forgive you for? Perhaps you can ask the Holy Spirit to search your heart and bring to light any hidden sin in that tender way that he has. Are there others, perhaps, you need to forgive? Truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus was crucified between 2 thieves who mocked him from their crosses. But as he was dying, one of the 2 had a change of heart. What must that thief who asked Jesus to remember him when he came into his kingdom have felt when Jesus answered him with these words, "Today you will be with me in paradise"? Consider how Jesus has made his presence known to you recently. Nothing will ever separate us from his love. Recall and give thanks for his near presence. And think ahead with thanksgiving to the promise of his presence with you, yours with him forever. Woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. Jesus' mother, Mary, was at the cross watching the son she loved dying. Also standing nearby was Jesus' beloved disciple, John. Jesus loved Mary, and as a responsible firstborn son, he wanted to make sure she was cared for after his death. He used his precious breath to utter these words of tender love, ensuring that his mother's well-being would be seen to by giving her to John. And John, not Mary's son, Jesus elevated to the status of his own brother. And we who belong to Christ are his mothers, his brothers, and his sisters. as much as if we were flesh and blood. Can you thank God for your mothers, your brothers, and your sisters who show care for you? Also, He's called us to care for one another. We're like John. Are there needy people around you for whom you can pray? Is there also something Christ is calling you to do as a mother, a brother, a sister, for someone or someone's around you? Open your heart to His call. I thirst. Here is Jesus in His humanity. He became flesh and dwelled among us, says John in his gospel. That means He hungered and thirsted. He felt pain. He laughed. He grew tired. He savored friendship. He was hurt by betrayal. He celebrated with those who rejoiced and even tasted temptation, yet without sin. Our faith is an embodied faith. Jesus, becoming man, elevated our bodies. They're gifts, temples for His Spirit. Let's give thanks for our bodies and offer them again, our hands, feet, our tongue, our eyes, our mind, all parts of us, to God as a living sacrifice, as a part of our worship. And we can pray for those too during this time, those suffering from the coronavirus and all the sick. It is finished. Here is God in His divinity. Here is Jesus fulfilling promises that only God could fulfill. Prophecy that dates back to the Garden of Eden. Jesus crushing the head of the serpent, overthrowing death. God showing His mercy and His power in reconciling the world to Himself. Let's ponder that great mercy, that grace, the fact that He has done for us what we could never do. There's nothing we can do to make Him love us more. Nothing we can do to make Him love us less. Meditate on this. Give thanks for His faithfulness to fulfill His promises and for His mighty power, which has done just that. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. What peace there is in surrender to God. John says in his gospel that Jesus knew that the Father had given all things into His hands, that He had come from God, and that He was going back to God. Jesus holds all things in His hands, has been given authority over all things. And He is here placing Himself in the Father's hands. God is all and in all. You are Christ's, and Christ is God, says Paul. How we are held in and by Him. Let His peace fill you as you ponder His final words of surrender and intimacy with His Father, your Father. And for a striking musical rendering of the 7 last words of Christ, you can follow this link to Andrew Peterson's Tenebrae. And thank you for joining me this morning. May you have a blessed Good Friday.